Welcome back.
Woo!
Welcome back to another episode of the Pretty Purposeful Podcast. I'm your host, Angie Melange.
And I'm Candace.
We are at episode 5. Can you believe it, Candace?
We are moving. Okay. No, I cannot believe it.
I know. I can't believe it. But here we are already in October. Like, we only got a couple more months left of 2024. I can't believe that either.
Right.
Like, where is the time going?
Flying.
It really is. I'm just excited though. I'm definitely happy the progress that we're making this season. Excited for this episode. This is definitely another purposefully packed episode. I'm excited. We have some amazing guests today. Before we get into our episode, as always, I like to check in with you, see what you've been up to. Anything new?
Oh, girl, let me show you what I've been up to. So, 1 second. All right. So, you know how I told you I've been working on, losing weight. I have some health goals of my own. So recently I did some meal prepping. I meal prepped me some salads, girl, and some acai bowls. And it turned out really, really well. I actually need to do this more often. So I look forward to meal prepping more because these pounds got to come off.
I hear you. That looks amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, you always do such a great job though when it comes to like prepping fresh food. I have to say, you are like, yeah. I mean, it's just like slicing cherry tomatoes because like that was never my thing. I was always one of those people that like, when it comes to cherry and grape tomatoes, I'm throwing them in the salad. I'm not taking the time to slice and dice. No.
Yes.
You put me down with that, and it makes a huge difference. It does.
It does. Yeah. So what have you been up to, ma'am?
Work. Yeah, no, I've continuing to work. A lot going on. I got to spend some time with Michaela yesterday. We went to the UGA tailgate party. So that was my first time. It was, Athens was packed. I didn't know that it gets like that, but it was exciting. Girl, my daughter is hilarious. Like, I'm like, she is definitely my child. And she was like, so you know me, I'm all promoting, it's voting, election time. She gonna say, Mommy, she gave me a forewarning. She's like, Mommy, you know where you at, right? She was like, I'm gonna need you to not be out here Kamalaing around.
Oh,
she's like, don't be cool. And it's Kamala is her name, but the way that she said it was cute. I was like, oh, yeah. But I said, your mama ain't never scared, okay? I ain't never scared. But I thought that was so cute because, yeah, she was definitely looking out. It was definitely a lot of Trump flags that were, waving. And but yeah, I thought that was so funny. I was like, that's definitely something I would have said.
That is too funny. Yeah, she knows you. That is your daughter. Okay.
Absolutely. Other than that, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It just so happens that I had my mammogram this month. So we go ahead and show a little bit of that experience. Here we go. That was pretty easy. This is my 3rd time getting a mammogram, so I'm getting more familiar with the process, but definitely glad that I got it done. I would encourage all you ladies out there to make your appointments. I was even wearing pink today. And that was it. That experience, it's always a little scary, but I'm definitely grateful for the opportunity to be able to go get checked. And, of course, it takes some time. They will let you know if there's anything. So I'm waiting to hear back, and put it in God's hands. But it's always best to go get checked early. So I would recommend any woman out there, I know they've always said you have to be over 40 to get checked, but I highly recommend if, breast cancer runs in your family, definitely talk with your doctor and see if there's any way that you can get tested early. I know personally, my PCP is a woman of color. Thank God for that, because for the first time ever, my doctor said to me, because of the history of breast cancer in my family, that she had recommended that I get mammograms early. So I did not have to wait till I was 40 to start getting mammograms. So, and I was surprised because I'm like, my providers that were not of color, I didn't have that experience. They never had offered that to me. So I definitely encourage you, anybody out there, if you are not 40, but you know that you have breast cancer in your family, I would definitely recommend asking your doctor to, I think it's called, there's something called genetic counseling as well. So I'm just going to throw that out there, genetic counseling, and asking for early cancer screening, breast cancer screening. So again, this episode is dedicated in memory of my friend Melissa Wiggold. It's been a year since she passed. Definitely great loss. And I was supposed to sing at her funeral last year, and I was in a car accident the day after we found out that she passed. So I wasn't able to. And it's been really hard, you know, dealing with her passing. I really haven't been able to properly grieve because not being able to be there, not being able to pay my respects, you know. So, but one thing I wanted to do this year was just honor her. And yeah, so this episode is dedicated in her memory.
Yes.
So while we're on the topic of breast cancer awareness, I definitely wanted to take the time to share some statistics because in our community, one thing for sure is that when it comes to talking about healthcare, we just need to talk about it more. And I think sharing statistics and educating is one way that we can open up that dialogue. So breast cancer stats. So breast cancer is the most common cancer in women in 157 out of 185 countries. And also in 2022, about 2.3 million women were diagnosed with breast cancer worldwide. That's in 1 year. African American women under 35 have a higher risk of breast cancer than Caucasian women of the same age. That's under 35.
Wow.
Yeah, so very important that we talk with our doctors and that we advocate for ourselves. Because I know, I'll say this from being someone who, you know, comes from northern states, we didn't really have that many providers of color. Honestly, when I moved to Atlanta, it was the first time I had provider that was a woman of color. And my experience with my providers have been more hands-on. Like I've had more, you know, conversations. Like I've really felt like my providers have actually cared about my, you know, my healthcare and preventative, you know, like very hands-on in terms of preventative care. A lot of times people are diagnosed with cancer, especially marginalized people are often diagnosed later in later stages of cancer. So it's really important that we do speak up. Another statistic, breast cancer mainly occurs in middle age and older women. The median age at the time of breast cancer diagnosis is 62. This means that half of women who develop breast cancer are 62 years of age or younger when they're diagnosed. A very small number of women diagnosed with breast cancer are younger than 45.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Can you believe that? I would say whenever I was in my master's program and I was doing research, I was shocked at a lot of the statistics that I came across, especially the statistics in terms of not just breast cancer, but just people of color and the late diagnoses. You know, I was just like, why is that? And a lot of times there's a lot of different factors, but one common thing that kept coming up was that, you know, people of color tend to not really trust the healthcare providers. And so they're not really going regularly. And because of that, they're missing the opportunity to get tested and be preventative. Right. So I think just, you know, having a conversation can hopefully encourage people to take the initiative, and self-advocacy is so important. So what are your thoughts, Candace? I mean, I know you're in your 30s. Have you had any conversations with your healthcare providers about breast cancer or getting tested, anything like that?
Yeah, the only conversations that I've had with my PCP is when I would go in for a physical, they would check to see if I have like any lumps or anything, you know, a thorough physical. And sometimes I would even have to like remind them, because sometimes they won't even, you know, check, or at least, you know, attempt to check. So sometimes, depending on who you're going to, yeah, sometimes you even have to remind your doctor, like, hey, do you mind doing an exam or checking me out to see, the early stages for, God forbid. But yeah, I guess I don't really have too many conversations with my doctor about it unless I'm going there for a physical. Yeah, but I know it's really, really important. It's definitely something me and my mom have discussed numerous times. So I think she probably already just had hers done a couple of months ago. But I'm like you said, it's something that we really do have to discuss and take seriously. There's one of those things that you do want to you rather know sooner than later. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely, I know in my family, it runs in my family. Both of my grandmothers, my paternal and my maternal grandmothers, both had cancer. Both of them survived. In fact, my paternal grandmother survived breast cancer twice. But I do have some relatives that, like cousins, that have had breast cancer. So I'm definitely high risk. So I absolutely prioritize my mammograms. And yeah, I encourage you, if you have not had a mammogram and you are hearing this episode, by all means, please go ahead and make that call. Go ahead and make that call and schedule that appointment. And that is something that mammograms, if you have health insurance, that is preventative. So often that is covered, because of, the different, healthcare regulations. These are things that have to be covered with insurance preventative care. So, but yeah, because this episode is all about women's health, we're going to get into the part of the episode that I'm excited for. And that's the part where we bring our amazing guests.
Yes. Speaking of guests, I am honored to be able to introduce our very first guest. Her name is Tiara Owens. So she is our very first guest that will be speaking in just a few moments. She is a dynamic leader in the healthcare industry. Tiara Owens is a practice administrator in pediatrics with an impressive background in OB/GYN practice, holding a master's degree in healthcare administration. She's bringing a wealth of knowledge and expertise in healthcare. As a native of Atlanta, Tiara has dedicated her career to addressing healthcare disparities within the Black community throughout her early career. Through her early career, she is already a powerhouse with a strong focus on business strategy and a passion for people, qualities that we truly value here at the Pretty Purposeful podcast. We are thrilled to have her join us today to lend her expertise and insights to join our conversation on women's health. Please join me in welcoming the incredibly talented Tiara Owens. Let's bring her to the stage.
Welcome.
Hey, thank y'all so much for having me. I am honored and blessed to be one of the first guests on the pod, but also just happy to just talk about my experience. So thank y'all. I'm humbly appreciative of this opportunity.
Awesome.
Well, we are so glad to have you here, Tiara. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
Emotions, and I'm just excited to just jump in and talk about everything.
Yes. So can you please tell us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to work in healthcare?
Yeah, I think my story, truthfully, is going to be very similar to those who are health administrators or who have kind of not wanting to be clinical or be a doctor and kind of made their way into this space. So as y'all mentioned, I am born and raised here in Atlanta. Decatur, where it's greater. And I left actually Atlanta when I was 18. I went to school in New Jersey, New York area. So I went there for my undergrad and my master's program in health administration. So for the past almost 8-9 years, I have been focusing specifically on just healthcare operations. And I knew maybe around like my sophomore, junior year of college back then that I wanted to be an OB/GYN. And then after a few orgo classes, I said, this is not for me. I hate the sight of blood. This is not where I want to be. But because of just like my business kind of skill sets, and then of course my passion for just really wanting to help people, I was fortunate enough to kind of find that segue between healthcare business, and still being able to provide access and care, and still, allowing an opportunity for patients and people to be seen and treated. So really kind of honing in on, patient access and just navigating the way that the health industry in the United States works. So in the past now 4 years, after I got my master's degree, I moved back to Atlanta and had spent all that time in just management spaces. So pediatric behavioral health for autistic students and children, and then OBGYN for 2 years, and now most recently in pediatrics. This is just my bread and butter. Like, I want to be a part of the change. I want to ensure equitable care for people who look like us, especially because they don't know enough. And have found myself to be one of the few people who look like me in these leadership spaces. And so I felt the charge, just to really be able to, continue to build in my career to allow more people behind me to just follow suit.
That's amazing. No, I'm absolutely I want to just commend you again, just for acknowledging that, it wasn't a right path for you when you first started out, because some people will continue down the wrong path. And then, we hear about doctors and nurses who have poor bedside manner, and they're just not aligned because they're just not really passionate, right? Doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It's just not what they really want to do. But I love that you're driven by the change, right? Wanting to make a change. And so with that being said, because you have the experience from the the administration side, what are some of the most common health concerns that you see women, especially women of color, coming to the practice with?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I think I want to back up and really kind of set the tone of the practice that I work for specifically. So I have always been in the private practice space. So I have not worked in the larger health systems, but very adjacent and almost borderline, underneath those health systems we're connected to. So in my OBGYN specialty space, I worked at a very, very large private practice. We had over 50 plus private physician doctors, and they were credentialed with a very large health system on site, one of the largest ones here in Atlanta, in the city. And I think just naturally, given just the space and the payer mix and just the type of people that were in that Midtown region, my physicians didn't look like me. They were, 12 white, 30 plus women who were in this space, and all of our staff, all of our team was pretty Black. But I think the actual community in which we served was very indicative to these 6-figure level plus incomes. And so we saw a certain type of demographic. And I think for me, coming in as an administrator, as the youngest, the Black, I think it was my duty to make sure that we had opportunities to open access to women who had commercial insurance, which we accepted, to how can we be able to market ourselves to provide care for them. So those are some of the things that I really just wanted to make sure that we were very diligent on. And really also having practitioners that look that way. That was a big ask early on, but we ultimately got it. But basically, I think for some of the concerns that I think I saw over time and just looking at our patient volume are, of course, your standard wellness visits. So this includes, breast and pelvic check for Medicare patients and Medicare women. This looked like reproductive health concerns. So fibroids, irregular periods, fertility issues. We had a lot of women who were IVF or just having trouble conceiving. We talked about contraception, of course, your general pap smears. And we also treated pregnant patients. So from our OB side, dealing with high-risk patients all the way up until, pregnancy confirmation up until delivery, truthfully. So we saw the full continuum of care when it came to women's health. I think for me, one of the biggest things that I've just learned and asked was just Black women in particular. They tend to have higher rates of fibroids. And I didn't really know that fact until I got into the OBGYN space. And There is no direct correlation as to like why Black women have that, but that can look like extremely painful periods. It can look like just, extreme cramping, just a lot of small, quote unquote, kind of feelings that you feel, or things that happen around your cycle, that can be undiagnosed or attributed to your period that just don't really kind of go into concern. So definitely wanted to make kind of note here in today's conversation to let women know that if there are concerns here, please make sure that you just provide time to talk with those who are, specifically specialized to focus on your privates. These are women who know where breast and vagina and uterus and all these things align. So when you don't understand yourself, there's somebody who you can be able to tap onto as a resource, and you're right, to be able to learn more about your body. So those are just some of the general things that I would see on a day-to-day basis.
Wow. You know your stuff, Tiara. Like you are really spreading some really good information here. Mm-hmm. And I am curious to know in your opinion, how can healthcare providers better support the Black maternal?
Time. I'm so sorry, Candace. I'm so sorry to do this. Before you move on to that next question, I wanted to kind of elaborate. I wanted to ask a question to you, Tiara, about the fibroids specifically.
Okay.
Really quickly. I'm so sorry. So Tiara, regarding the fibroids, is there a test that is done, or is that typically through a standard, just a regular checkup? Is that typically a test that a provider would just do, like it's just a routine checkup, or does someone have to come in and say, hey, I'm having these symptoms, and then the provider would, based on those symptoms, know to test? Or like, how does that typically work? Because I will say, me personally, I've never had a provider mention anything about fibroids, but yet I have had every symptom that you just mentioned. Mm-hmm. I have experienced.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think that's a really great question. And I do want to also throw a second disclaimer that I am not clinical, y'all. So I want to make sure that everything that I say, please make sure that you're doing your due diligence research and just understanding what those things mean, and talk to your provider. If y'all take anything away from what all of us are saying today, go to your doctor and make that appointment. But in short, fibroids are basically just like these little non-cancerous growths that kind of form in like around your uterus area. So it's basically, in the word, like it's just fibrous tissue that's just kind of balled up into your body. And so they can come with like, different sizes. It can, like I said, include heavy menstrual bleeding. It can be pelvic pain. It could be bloating. It could lead to like some contraception options. Generally, the way to detect fibroids is just through ultrasound. So when you go to your provider, you mention kind of these things and advocate for yourself. That is it something potentially that we could look for in fibroids? And then your doctor will kind of give their reasoning as to why this may or may not do that. There isn't a way that you can, self-check and feel things. Sometimes there is like tenderness to the touch in your abdomen area. But if you're feeling that, then that's definitely all the more reason to kind of go to your provider so they can officially diagnose that. I feel that one of the things, I'm going to take a step back from answering that question and talk about one of my kind of biggest gripes that I have with just like physicians in general. It's not necessarily a gripe with them. I think that it's just, physicians are humans just like us. They have had extensive years of practice, but no one knows what's happening inside your body except for you, and what you are experiencing matters. And so sometimes if someone tells you, we put a lot of like power in physicians of when they say, no, that's not it, then we're just supposed to accept that. And sometimes it could be the completely wrong diagnosis, or they just simply don't know. The purpose of physicians is to essentially rule out something. So they're working through almost a process of elimination, scientific method to figure out what's going on with you. So if you genuinely, heart of your hearts, feel that there is something more than what may meet the eye, and they're not willing to provide any, diagnostic testing, any lab work to be able to rule these things out, get a second opinion. There's somebody who can be able to hear and understand what it is that you're saying, exploring holistic options, things that are for your plan and what it is that you want to do for your body. I always just want to advocate women to be able to do that, because we are so quiet and timid when it comes to just sharing what our experience is. And we see that so much. But fibroids can be, misdiagnosed in women, and it's more common in Black women. So sometimes it can get confused with PCOS. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of that before. And endometriosis. So having those conversations of just understanding what each of these things mean are just important, just to have in conversation with your doctor.
Good. That was a really good question. So what I was asking was, how can healthcare providers better support Black maternal health? What suggestions do you have in regards to that?
I'm like Issa Rae. I'm rooting for everybody Black. So I definitely think that, for me, speaking as a Black woman, as someone who is just, in the market as well, I need a doctor just like everybody else. I always, whether it's mental health, my vaginal health, women's health, I always try to find women who look like me, who can also understand my story. Yes. So finding an opportunity to align yourself with that type of physician, obviously that is not, available to everybody. So I think that just providers just need to really recognize that systematic bias exists, and really just kind of taking that step towards understanding that I'm dealing with a Black patient right now. What does that mean, and what does that look like? So I think we all know the general understanding that Black maternity care and the quality and the mortality rates are much higher than that of our counterparts. And I think it is our responsibility, speaking from the practice administrator lens, to have our physicians communicate that to pregnant women or women who are trying to conceive. I think that Black mothers, Black soon-to-be mothers, or people who want to be moms are often dismissed, and that can be very fatal in just our health and passing that information along. So just cultural competence, ultimately, I think having a system that supports educating staff, I think really just providing proper prenatal care. So having access to samples and just knowing information of how to turn our bodies around to be able to match, the needs of what we're looking for specifically in our community.
I keep hearing a bell, but look, I got my bell over. I'm ready to ring my bell, because to everything you just said, Tiara, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, we have to educate, because sometimes I think if we don't really realize the things that are impacting us, why there's so many disparities, then we can't really change. Like we know that, there is a responsibility that's there for providers, but we also have the responsibility of advocating for ourselves. And if you don't know, you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know until you know, right? Absolutely. So thank you so much. All right. Well, what about you, Candace? Like, have you had any experiences with your providers, any positive or negative? Because I was sharing about me moving from a different region. The region up north is absolutely different. There's just you don't find that many doctors of color, especially not women of color practitioners. And I found down here that there's just, a lot. You just have options, and it's a different experience, probably the best healthcare experience I've had since I've been here in the South. And that's, you just wouldn't know that. People up north don't understand that. So I'm grateful for that. But what has your experience been, Candace?
Mine has been very similar. Well, I was born and raised in the South, right? So I've always seen a lot of female doctors, female African-American doctors. I remember when my little sister was born, she was, my mom's OBGYN, she was Black. So I've seen it growing up, so definitely a positive experience there for sure. And it just seems, when you got your sister helping you out healthcare wise, it does feel a little bit more comfortable.
Absolutely. You need that resource and support. I think community lacks in the healthcare space because people don't want to know, because they don't know what's on the other side. But like you said, Angie, just sometimes you got to get into the thick of things so you can understand how you need to move accordingly.
Absolutely. Hey, Purposeful family, it's Angie Milans with the Pretty Purposeful podcast, here reminding you that your voice matters now more than ever. We're less than 30 days away from Election Day, and in many states, early voting has already begun. Here in Georgia, early voting starts on Tuesday, October 15th. But no matter where you are, you can find out your state's early voting schedule by going to vote.org. Voting early is more than just about skipping the long lines. As we know, there's a lot at stake. Voting early is about more than just skipping the long lines this year. It is to ensure that there is a fair election. We want to make sure that your vote gets counted. Not everybody plays fair, and we want to make sure that when we win so big that the opposing side will know that we've won fair and square. This is not the time to be fashionably late. This election is critical, so I need you to make a plan, mark your calendars, figure out who you're going to go to the polls with, and make sure that your vote counts. This year, we want you to vote on purpose, with purpose, for a greater purpose. I'll see you all at the polls. Bye. Our next guest originally hails from Detroit, and I had the pleasure of meeting her here in Atlanta about 3 years ago. And from the moment I'd heard her sing, I knew that she had an anointing on her life. She's a powerhouse vocalist who beautifully blends gospel, R&B, and pop, but her talent is just one part of what makes her so special. Miss Autumn Charles, she is not just a phenomenal artist, but she's a dedicated wife, a mother of 6, a woman of God, and an inspiring actress with a story that I believe will bless many. She now resides in LA, and she has been on an incredible journey. She recently won first place at the legendary Showtime at the Apollo, and her viral hit song, Byron, which has been featured on BET Her TV network, has captured hearts worldwide. Her resilience, faith, and purposeful spirit shine through in everything she does, including her recent weight loss journey. Here to share her story and tell us about her new hit single, Blame Me, please help me welcome Miss Autumn Charles. Welcome, Autumn. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. I honestly, I'm just so grateful that you could make it today. You're all the way out on the West Coast, and just, with everything that you have going on in your life, you have a lot going on. But I know that you're a purposeful woman because, to be able to manage all that I just mentioned, you have to be living a life of purpose. So my hat goes off to you, lady. I'm just so impressed with everything that you have going on. As a singer, an artist, and everything that you have going on, how do you balance it all? Tell us, how do you balance it?
You know what? I am a woman of faith, but I also understand that God uses people. So I reach out to people that can actually bring me back down to earth sometimes because I don't always have the answer. I don't know it all. And so one of the people that I call is my mom. And it's such a blessing because I remember when we didn't have the best relationship, but now that I'm an adult, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm out of her house. Yes. We talk all the time. So I call my mom. Sometimes I call some of my friends that can give me natural and spiritual advice. And what I mean by that is, Autumn, you need to get out the house, go get your feet done, go get something to eat without your kids, buy you something without looking at the kids rack. So I, iron sharpens iron. So I pray, I let God be my guide, and I also talk to people.
Yes, I love that. Before we get into the health aspect of things, because we definitely want to talk about your recent weight loss journey. But before we get into that, you have a powerful testimony. And because we have this platform, and I just think that your testimony, just of your journey, you hail from Detroit. As I said, I met you in Atlanta. You are now in LA. If you could just share a brief bit of your recent journey and how you got to LA.
Well, I have lived in Detroit all of my life. But God just sort of shifted us, and that's how you met me. I lived in Atlanta for 3 years, and I remember we had just bought our house, and I had a dream the first night that I slept there, and it was a knock at the door, and a lady was handing me a paper, and she said, "You have 30 days to move." And I thought maybe I was fearful, of not having a home because I finally got settled, and I'm just like, this is fear, but it actually was a real thing. I got a knock at the door, and I actually had 3 days to move. And what had transpired is that we entered into a mortgage scam. I did not own the home. It was devastating, but prior to that, I just kept feeling like that's not where we were going to ground our feet. And I kept asking my husband, I said, "Babe, how long do you think we're going to be in Atlanta?" And he said, "I think this is home. We're going to be here forever." And I'm like, okay, despite the dreams I had, and I was listening to my husband, but no, we had entered into a mortgage scam, and I didn't even know that that really existed. I mean, I've heard about it, but it actually happened to me, and I couldn't believe it. So once we moved to LA, we we thank God. God knows what He's doing, y'all. I mean, we this stuff transpired around tax season. And I'm laughing because I mean God is just so He orchestrates everything and He orchestrates it well. And so when we got to LA, we were excited. Oh my God, okay, we got the money, a down payment for an apartment, whatever. We good, right? No, our credit, we had a bankruptcy from 2018. So to kind of shorten this testimony, that left us homeless because no one would accept us with a bankruptcy on our credit, and they just wasn't having it here in LA. So we went from hotel to hotel to finally we found extended stay. That was the closest thing to home because extended stay has a kitchen.
Yes.
Okay, and I could cook. And I remember tossing and turning because I was pregnant. I call our experience a Mary and Joseph experience because when Mary was pregnant with Jesus, they had literally God was telling them where to go, and they was going from city to city until
Yes.
they can actually plant their feet somewhere just to have the child. And after they had the child, they had to get on the road again. So me and my husband, we were at the extended stay for about 8 months. I used to toss and turn, and I said, God, why? Like, why is this happening? And God said, instead of asking why, because that's not going to help you, just pray for my peace, because His peace surpasses all understanding. And I used to say, Lord, just give me peace, give me peace. And all of a sudden, my why, it changed from why to, Lord, I thank you because I have food, I have water, I have a place to cook, I have shelter over my head. Yeah, it's a hotel, we're all in one room, but it's two beds, and then it turned into three because they ended up giving us a pull-out bed. God ended up just showing so much favor. So we had that. I said, we have a bathroom. You know what, God? I'm gonna stop asking why, and I'm just gonna rest in you, because I know that resting in you is going to cause all this anxiety to fade. And that did happen. Once I just rested, next thing you know, things started looking up. We did get a place. We ended up getting a apartment in 2022, and after that, it was time to go again. I don't know, guys. Just the way He moves, I just started to trust Him. It still felt heavy, but I trusted Him. So after that, we were homeless again because once again, our credit is still not repaired. That bankruptcy is something serious. That's another topic we may have to talk about another time, because just to give you a small insight, we're not taught how bankruptcies work in school. The more suburban areas or uppity areas, they teach their children about bankruptcy, and therefore a lot of the different cultures know how to work the bankruptcy to where they're not down and out.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
we didn't have that knowledge. So I of course I started to educate myself. I know a little more now, but again, we were homeless again. We were in the hotel, going from hotel to hotel. Some of the hotels we were in were nice. Okay, it was like a mini vacation.
Wow.
But the Lord sent someone and said, hey, the Lord put you guys on my heart, and you guys should check out this program. We checked out the program. Long story short, we were not in their area, but they saw our family. They had favor on our family, and they housed our family within a shelter. And after living in the shelter, I want to say from last year, from October to this year of May, we finally got our 4 bedroom home. A four
Wow.
bedroom house.
Wow.
Yes. So
Amen.
yes, we have been in our house since May, and things are, we still trusting, still trusting. I start phlebotomy school tomorrow, and my husband is going to go after me. The school was completely paid for. I didn't have to come out of pocket. God is just working everything out. Everything the enemy meant for our evil, He really is showing us. I turn this stuff around for your good.
Amen.
So
Yes.
Wow. Candace, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to say, I remember having a conversation with you after you moved.
Wow.
I was traveling. I was talking about meeting up with you and
yeah,
recording things like that, and
yeah,
just even your spirit, you and your husband, you both were always positive throughout You would never even have known y'all were going through what you were going through. So I knew. I was like, I just wanted you to be able to share that testimony, because the fact that you have 6 little human beings that you also have with you
Yes.
while you're going through that speaks volumes of your faith. And I just, wow. I'm like fighting back tears right now, because this is just amazing. And I'm just so glad that you were able to share that today. And
Yes,
so happy
me
to hear
too.
the news. Yes. I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Candace.
Oh, no, you're good. And thank you so much for sharing that too, Autumn. So my question for you is, you've recently undergone an incredible weight loss journey, right? So,
Yes.
girl, I definitely want to hear what motivated you to start that journey.
Well, what motivated me was my knees. I got tired of my knees hurting.
Oh,
No, I always been into, I've always been a plus size girl, but in every diet I have tried has failed. Even with working, well, no, they've failed because I failed to understand the food industry. I'm just say that the food industry, the way our body works, what we should and we should not eat. But I did. After I started having children, I gained so much weight. I mean, I I got to a size that I had never saw before. I didn't recognize myself. I didn't understand why I wasn't able to fit certain sizes. And I'm like, wait, when I finally got on the scale, I cried, because it's like, wow, how did I get here? When did I get here? So I had a trainer in 2015, and I worked out. It was working well, but I noticed that some of my body parts, like my knees, my arms, my shoulders, certain things I would do was I was injuring myself. So I ended up going, and I inquired about the gastric sleeve, and I had the gastric sleeve. Now, before the gastric sleeve, because of all the weight that I had, all of the pounds that I packed on, I couldn't get pregnant. I wasn't able to get pregnant for about 4 years. And so I remember going through that, and I'm like, why am I not getting pregnant? I already have 2 kids. And so after I got the sleeve, I ended up getting pregnant 4 months after the sleeve. And that's because there's a hormone. I can't remember the hormone. I wish I remember the name of it. But there's a hormone that skyrockets as you lose weight. And because of that hormone that skyrocketed, I ended up getting pregnant 4 months after the surgery. I did go from 330 to 230 even while being pregnant after the sleeve. But after that, I continued to get pregnant. Oh my God, I was pregnant back to back, back to back. I couldn't believe it was happening. I'm like, whoa, God. Like, I went from 4 years of not being able to be pregnant to 4 years of being pregnant. And I went from 2 to 6 real fast. Okay. So I gained weight. I didn't go back to 330, but I ended up getting back to 312 after that. So I also, because of that weight, I ended up having like a hiatal hernia, and I ended up getting GERD, which is a acid reflux, and it kind of makes you like choke, like you can choke standing up or wait in your sleep. Oh my God, I was choking every night. So finally, I went ahead and got the gastric bypass, because the gastric bypass is actually the cure for that. That the gastric bypass was actually created for people with intestinal issues, gastric issues. So the doctors kept telling me they wanted to do it, and I kept denying it, but I finally did it. And after I did it, there was immediate relief. I don't have GERD anymore, and also I was able to lose that weight. So I went from 312, and I am now 208.
what?
Yes,
Woo!
from a 3X to about a 14.
Girl,
Yes.
that's amazing. Wow. So I commend you again. That's amazing. I've seen your pictures. I'm just like, yeah. And you're not done. I know this is just the beginning. So,
I'm
but
not
I
done with what? Kids?
know.
Girl,
Let me not judge you. What you say? You done.
they trying to put, girl, everybody been trying to put baby dust. I said, you go on and have it. I didn't contribute enough. Okay.
No, but just to be able to do all of that, I mean, I personally have had a weight loss journey myself, and I know that it can definitely take a toll on your mental and emotional health.
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
how has that been, and how have you been able to manage that, especially while, being there for your babies and your husband as well?
That's the emotional side of it. It's like I don't. My skin is pretty tight, but I still have a little bit of loose skin, and I don't like it. So I found myself obsessing over my body, and I had to take a step back and say, "Hey, this is a journey. You have to take it step by step, day by day, and just do what you can. And after that, go get back on the table.
Look, where my bell?
If
Look,
that you
look.
need to, okay, get you a mommy makeover."
That's
But understanding that, like, that this is a process, and how can I teach my kids about you know trust in the process if they see me not trusting the process? And my kids are, "Mommy, you don't need to lose no more weight." Like, girl, yes,
oh,
you getting too small, mommy. And I said, well, mommy is doing this for health reasons. But the me making the change, because you can't just rely on the surgery. You also have to make a mental note, and change the way that you think, and change the way that you eat. And me doing that has affected my house in a positive way, because I stopped buying certain things. Okay, if we craving cookies, we'll go out and get a cookie. We're not gonna bring a pack of cookies in this house. Okay, because if it's there, we're gonna eat it.
yes.
Okay, so
And I know you
that,
got a lot of snacks with them babies.
yeah, yeah. Listen, the snacks now. My snacks are fresh. Oh, go get an apple. Go get a plum and some watermelon in there. Because what I also learned is, when your body wants, when you what your body is doing when you're craving for those sweets, is really craving for the natural sugar that was planted here on the earth for us and for our bodies. It's not really craving the artificial sugar, but what happens is we feed our body the artificial sugar, and now our bodies are switching from the natural craving into the artificial craving. But underneath all of that is really saying, I need the natural sugar that was created for my body. And so that is what I present in my house:
That's
fruit.
amazing. That's
And
amazing.
we also don't do a lot of dairy. We do dairy sometimes, but dairy milk, we have cut that out. Dairy cheese, we dabble a little bit, but cut it out. Ice cream, they have so many vegan ice creams, and it's amazing. So delicious. Oh my God. But even with that, we don't bring it in the house often. So it has affected us in a positive way, sometimes in a negative way. Because sometimes I'm crying to my husband, like, baby, do you still like me? Do you see my thighs? They're not as tight as they used to be. Look at my stomach. My baby, like, it's beautiful to me. I love that. He's
That's
so
right.
encouraging. So, yeah,
That's
those are the
awesome.
different ins and outs.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh my gosh, that's so inspiring for me personally, because I know I be going through, that's the struggle for me, these heavy duty cravings. Um,
Yeah.
and sometimes you just got to force the fruit in your mouth. I definitely,
Mm.
Angie has seen it. I forced
Yeah.
some apples in my mouth before it
Yeah.
finally looked.
Hmm.
Yep.
So we know what to do.
But once you start to, I haven't watched What the Health yet, but I understand that a lot of the foods that we eat are linked to cancer.
Yep.
uh Dairy, it creates mucus and the mucus can crystallize. It's so many things that we eat that create a cancer cell.
Yeah.
So because I know that cancer has been in my family in spurts, I look out for that. I don't, I try to eat, so even with fruits and vegetables, like, I've learned that we're not supposed to eat cucumbers with the skin on it. We're
Mm.
not supposed to eat tomatoes with the skin of it, because their fruits and vegetables are alive, and they do have protective shells. And when we eat certain parts of the fruit or vegetable, it releases a gas or
Oh,
certain things, yeah, that can even create a glue in our system. So America has just really blindsided us in a lot of ways, even with fruits and vegetables, and even with the modified engineered, the bioengineered fruit that they're putting out. So we do try to get organic. My next goal is to grow my own food, because even with the meats, it's just having the once we educate ourselves a little more, as I'm still doing, will our palate actually start to change, just because of our thought process.
That's right. That's right. So we are going to switch gears up a little bit. Autumn, you have recently released a new single called Blame Me.
I gave you more than one shot, and you still found a way to blame me. Well, I'll take the blame. I blame me for ever falling for you. I gave you all my love, and you still found a way to hate me. Well, I'll take the blame. I blame me for ever falling for you. I saw the signs beforehand. I saw the.
Oh, girl.
Yes, thank you. That's my jam too. Look, and I'm saying,
Oh,
Girl. I wanted to blow up. Like it's R&B. Like we need that. R&B's missing music like that. So thank you for your contribution.
no problem.
yes. So do you mind telling us what was the inspiration behind making your new single, Blame Me? What did you really hope listeners take away from it?
Well, I've had multiple friends that multiple. I've had multiple friends that recently went through divorces, and the divorces, I don't root for them, but those were actually necessary. Like they dealt with narcissistic men, and I, oh my God, the things I have witnessed, it was just mind blowing. I mean, even to where I was involved and I had to like yank myself out of it because when dealing with narcissism, it's just not a fun ride. Okay. So I took some of even my experiences because I feel like all men can jump into narcissism. Like you have men that or people that can have narcissistic traits, and then you actually have people that have a narcissistic disorder. um, but I watched those different scenarios even within my life in the past, and I said, you know what, I want to make a song talking about basically choosing yourself.
Mm.
And the aftermath is, of course, the person trying to bash or blame you for the ending of it. And hey, it's okay because I know what I went through. I know what I fought for. And what's so crazy is just recently came out, a young man shot himself, and she finally broke up with him after 9 years, and she went through a lot with him. And not only that, he even died within narcissistic being a narcissistic abuser. He called her on the phone and shot himself.
Wow.
So I gave you all of my love, yet you still found a way to hate me. I'll take the blame. So that's what that's what brought on that song.
Wow. Wow.
Mm.
It's a
Yeah.
beautiful song. It's a powerful message, and it's one of those. That's one thing I love about R&B is that when it has a classic, the lyrics are classic. It's timeless. So that's real R&B. It'll be
Thank
around forever
you.
and ever and ever. And yes.
Oh, that is my goal, to always write timeless music. So for you to say that, that just encouraged me to just keep going. Yes, ma'am. Keep
And we
going.
we definitely, I'm looking forward to the collaboration. That's
Oh, that's
we,
gonna happen. No.
yes. I'm so
Me
looking
too.
forward. I'm so
Listen, too. I'm ready
yes,
for y'all to make some history with some songs now.
Oh,
Look.
we gonna do it.
yes,
She has
yes.
Angie has a beautiful voice, beautiful, buttery, flawless voice to me.
Thank
He
you. Thank
does.
you.
Yeah.
And you were also telling us about a song that you wrote about cancer. Tell us a little bit about that.
Moving to Georgia, the setup for my move to Georgia was there was a little girl. She was 16, and I mentioned her name in the song. You'll hear her name. She's no longer with us, but she was 16 and she was battling cancer. And I remember seeing a lot of people go up there and just like singing by her bedside, even stars. Like they were going up there crying. And I remember saying, God, I wish I can go up there because it's something more that she needs. I didn't know what that more was, but God was like, just go. I'm like, go? How am I go? And he literally made the way for me to go. As soon as my husband got off of work, my someone rented a car for us, and we drove to Georgia. Now, after she's been living for days, guys, I went there and I remember like, oh, we're gonna see a healing. Sometimes we think healing is on this side. It's not always on this side. But I remember God saying, you're gonna say exactly what I give you to say. And immediately I'm like, oh my God, okay, like what is this? I'm thinking she's gonna get off that bed. No, I remember one of the words saying, God said, even forgive those who hurt you that's around you. And at this time, she wasn't talking. And after I said that, I remember seeing a tear fall down her face. And I prayed with her. I sung the song Cancer to her. And after I left, 2 hours after I left, guys, she passed.
Wow.
She passed. So I knew I sung that song to her first. Nobody had heard that song but her. And Aaliyah was her name. I sung that song. She passed, and she was ushered into the presence of the Lord. But after I sung that to her, I went ahead and did it. I went and laid at the studio. So I just wanted everybody to have that encouragement while they're going through it, or people that fought the battle and won, or even people that passed. But one lady reached out to me one day and said, my mom is fighting cancer. She's transitioning, but she's listening to the song. She likes to listen to this song while she's battling.
Wow. That's amazing. We're going to actually include that song at the end of the episode. So look out for that, y'all. And Candace, you want to introduce our next segment? We're going to go ahead and bring Miss Tiara back up.
So welcome back, Tiara. Yeah, so we are about to do a new segment. And this is something that we're pretty much going to do for all of our guests that we have on board. And it is called the Purpose Pulse. Okay.
Woo-hoo!
Now, this is an opportunity for us to get some insight on pretty much what does living a life of purpose mean to you. And we do have specific questions to ask you, ladies. So I would love to ask Tiara this question. Okay, so what's the secret ingredient in your recipe for a purposeful life?
Ooh, I am in such a season of figuring out my purpose and figuring out what that looks like. Going through like a career pivot and changing, it's allowed me to be reflective. So I think the secret ingredient is self-awareness. I think that there's no way that I can be able to drive any type of stamp or say that I want to do this without knowing who I am and where I've been, and really just digesting my past to align me with where it is that I want to be or where I haven't yet seen myself be. So for me, that just means like having more independent time, reflection time, writing things down, getting my thoughts down, recording my wins, my losses, and just kind of like taking a look at that. And it just helps me be more empowered to know that my next step tomorrow, the next hour from now, next year from now is going to be methodical, in what it is that I want to do.
Yes, look, got to ring a bell on that. Thank you, Miss Tiara. Yes.
You.
All right, Miss Autumn, for you, if purpose had a soundtrack, I got to go with the music theme. If purpose had a soundtrack, what would be its theme song and why?
Keep on walking. I actually do have a song. It's called Each Day. And that's what it would be, each day, or keep on walking, because you have to keep moving and learning to live in the now, and writing that vision out and making it plain and say, okay, this is what I've written out. This is my vision. Now I'm going to have to trust the process to get there, because you can't run before you crawl or walk. So
that was good. That was good. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up, y'all. Today, our Purposeful family, we thank you all for tuning in today. We hope that you have enjoyed this episode. This was definitely purposefully packed. Our guest added so much value today. I mean, I can't wait to watch this episode myself. We talked about women's health, breast cancer awareness. We had a pleasure of hearing from our guests, Tiara Owens and Ms. Autumn Charles. They shared their invaluable insights on healthcare and their personal journeys. If you would like to be a guest in the future on the Pretty Purposeful Podcast, please visit our website at prettypurposefulpodcast.com and fill out the guest registration form.
If you all have been tuning in into some of our episodes, especially during, the past seasons that we've completed, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and follow these ladies too. Our guests, they are on to some really purposeful living. They're living their lives intently. And let's show them some love. Let's show them some support. Okay. I have personally learned and gained from you all, from what you've shared. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. This is amazing. I love this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We definitely thank you all for being here. We would love to have y'all back on in the future.
Angie, what's the saying?
It's okay to be pretty,
but even better to be pretty
purposeful.
Bye.
I want to dedicate this song to every person all over the world that's dealing with cancer. Whether it be bone cancer, leukemia, whatever it may be, know that my God can heal you. I'm gonna remove all fear and doubt. I know the Lord will work it out. There's not a cancer in the world you can't defeat, you paid it all. You are the source of everything. You are the strength that strengthens me. I'm gonna fight until the end. Not gonna die, but I'm live. Not scared of cancer. You're greater than cancer. You're stronger than cancer. Healer of cancer. You are the source of everything. You are the strength that strengthens me. I'm gonna fight until the end. Not gonna die, but I'm live. Anytime I'm ready to throw in the towel, you're right there to tell me, don't you give up now. I have more for you. I will pull you through. That's what I keep hearing you say. So even though you may hurt and you feel afraid, know that Jesus is here to remove the pain. He can do all things, but you gotta believe. Have faith that he can do anything. Not scared of cancer. You're greater. You're stronger. Healer of cancer. You are the source of everything. You are the strength that strengthens me. I'm gonna fight until the end. Not gonna die, but I'm live. Not scared. Greater than a healer of cancer. Healer of cancer. You are the source of everything. You are the strength that strengthens me. I'm gonna fight until the end. Not gonna die, but I'm live. I'm gonna live. I'm gonna live. I'm gonna live. I'm gonna live this life. I'm gonna win this fight. Never you can live this life. Alicia, you can